Welcome back to another UNC Tar Heels football recruiting podcast here on TarHeelIllustrated.com. And if you're checking us out only on our YouTube channel, Tar Heel Illustrated, you should head on over to TarHeelIllustrated.com because we have an amazing deal that we're running right now. 60 days for free. Just 60 days for free. No cost, nothing. You sign up and you get access to all of our premium stuff at THI for the next 60 days. It's the middle of September now. That takes you into the middle of November. And if you decide you want to stick around and sign up for a one-year membership, we're going to give it to you at half price, and you get a free t-shirt at breakingt.com. Now, this is a football recruiting podcast. And, of course, with me, as she usually is when we talk about UNC football recruiting, is our very own director of football recruiting, Miss Deana King. And Deana, you and Jacob Turner spent Sunday in Matthews, North Carolina at an event with about 150 prospects. There aren't games in the state of North Carolina right now, but there are events, and you're playing a really big role in the VTO's high school regional football showcase. I believe there's going to be 8 of those camps. The first one was Sunday in the Charlotte area in Matthews, and of course it is presented by Miss King. Well, it's actually presented by ncpreps.com, which is your other site that you run covering high school athletics in the state of North Carolina. So before we dive into 5 prospects of significant note for UNC fans that were there, quickly tell us about this event and what you guys have coming forward.
Well, it was an event that me and Vince Jacob, who is one of the original founders of VTO Sports, they always do combines. If you know what the Rivals Camp, they basically started the trend of all these camps. So they have a good history here in the Carolinas. They're from Charlotte, so they've got their own little series. And with the pandemic, COVID pandemic affecting everything, I just come up with the idea like, Vince, let's take your showcase to different parts of the state and just do several of them. I mean, go to Asheville, go to Wilmington, go to Greenville. So besides, going to the usual place of Charlotte and the Raleigh-Durham area. And he just really thought that was a great idea. And we've had a lot of positive feedback from D1 coaches, D2 coaches, and everything, saying that this is a great idea because these kids, they don't have a game. They don't have games. They're having to, especially the class of 21, they're not, if some of them were dependent on their senior season to get an offer, maybe by a D2 or a D1 school. So it was just a great idea, and we had our first one on Sunday, and it was very, very successful. We had 150 kids that came in and battled in a pretty humid atmosphere, about 85 degrees, but you're on turf and it feels like 100. So
sure does.
They had a great time, and we had some D2 coaches there that got to see some prospects, and that's the ultimate goal, is for these kids to get a chance to play at the next level.
Yeah, without getting into the whole, it really is unfortunate that kids in North Carolina and Virginia are not playing this fall. Can you imagine if Javonte Williams didn't have his senior season? Because it was the state championship game in Kenan Stadium that a couple of UNC coaches sat there and watched him tear it up, and they offered him later that day, and he committed Monday. And look at where he is. He may well end up playing in the NFL. So the camps that you guys are doing are serving a valuable service. A lot of coaches it's streamlined. A lot of coaches are watching that. Some schools, I guess you said a couple of smaller schools had some people there. And it's not just for the Power Fives. It's not just for the Carolinas and the NC States out there. It's also for the other schools, because there are a lot of scholarships on the table, and a lot of these kids are going to have a chance to play for one. Now, the 5 kids we're going to talk about, they're all going to go somewhere and play in college. One of them is going to be a Tar Heel, and we'll hit on him first. And then we're going to hit on a couple of other big-time class of 22 prospects and guys that you've got a chance to see again in person. You're getting quite familiar with some of these kids. So before we get on to the uncommitted kids, let's talk about Rara Dillworth, who is somebody that I know you've gotten to know very well, and you appreciate his personality. his attitude, and his incredible athletic gifts. He's a phenomenal athlete, and he's the kind of kid that would not be surprised when he eventually arrives at UNC that you will see him on the field early. Rara was there Saturday. Just kind of give us an update on how things are going with him and how he looked.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. Rara is going to be UNC's version of primetime Dion Sanders. He just lights up everywhere he goes.
He does. He really does.
It doesn't matter. He walks, everybody's like in awe. So he's a great leader too. Let's not leave that out. But he did tremendous. I mean, this is like the third time I've seen him in action, and he's getting better. He's working out. He's improved his speed. I mean, good gracious, you'll see the footage that Jacob's got. He ran a 4.43 laser. That's not, I mean, I know some numbers can be fidgeted on these hand times, but the laser, 4.43. And he was smoking out there.
And that ISO video, people could, if you're on our channel right now, our YouTube channel, THI Illustrated, you scroll down to see the ISO video. We got some ISOs of some of the other guys that were there as well. And I watched that a little while ago. We're taping this on a Monday, very, very busy day, of course, with the press conferences and stuff. But I mean, I love watching this kid. You just appreciate so many of the qualities that he brings. But that 4.40. What was Mac doing about Daz the other day in that video that Carolina put out? Something like, I'm not going to do it. Don't want to do it, Mac. Can't do Mac. He stands alone. But maybe in several years he might be doing that about Rara.
He probably will. I mean, Rara, he's listed as a linebacker, but I swear if he gets faster and everything, I could see him just being a rover or something, because he was out there playing cornerback sometimes on these drills and was staying with these wide receivers and even, just daring them to try to beat him on the route. And he got an interception on a one. But Rara, I mean, Carolina fans are going to love him. I mean, he bleeds Carolina blue. He showed up in a Carolina blue shirt. He had a Carolina blue mask. Right? Yeah. He had Carolina blue shoes. So I wouldn't be shocked to see if he had on like the Michael Jordan, the Carolina under pants.
He's going to love the gear that those kids get. You don't have to answer before we shift on to Travis Shaw. You don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but very few people saw Chaz Surratt in high school more than you. Chaz, extremely fast. Just watch him. I mean, he is the epitome of sideline to sideline linebacker. Jay Bateman talks about his speed, which all the time. Is Rara faster than what Chaz was at this stage?
I believe so. I mean, Rara, one thing I like about Rara, he hasn't rested on his, quote, laurels. I mean, getting a 4-star top 100 prospect in the nation. He's went out. I bet this is like the 5th or 6th camp, combine, 7-on-7 he's been to this summer. He left the camp Sunday and went and played with the Carolina Stars in Weddington, about 10 minutes down the road, with Drake May and a lot of those kids. So he is full of energy. So yeah, if I'm Jay Bateman, I am like, this kid, I can't wait to get him, because he don't have a motor that don't stop.
He obviously loves to compete. Another guy that was going to show up at a VTO event you helped sponsor a couple months ago, but at the last minute was unable to. 5-star class of 22 defensive tackle Travis Shaw. He was there Sunday. You got a chance to talk to him. You did an interview for National for Rivals, also your site, and you did one for us here on THI. So if you haven't seen it yet, you can just look around. All those videos we have, you can find the Travis Shaw interview and Jacob Turner's ISO video of Travis Shaw from Sunday. So what are your thoughts? You got a chance to talk to him and get to know him a little bit better, and you got a chance to watch him up close in person. What are your thoughts about him?
He legit. He's a monster. Yeah. Maybe gentle inside, but he's a monster on the football field. He overpowered everybody, and if you see the clips, he just I mean, that's the reason he's a 5-star. Number 7, nationally by Rivals, has all the schools wanting him. He cut it down to 13, and he went over the top 13, and it's a very unique list. I mean, you have your major powers 5 schools, and then he mentioned his hometown school, which I think is just really awesome, North Carolina A&T, and they have a very good program. And I don't know what it is about the kids from Greensboro, and I've seen it with a lot of the kids with Peyton Page, Michael Wyman, several others. They always have a special place for North Carolina A&T. They do things with their community, and I think it's just really, really special that Travis is really legitimately considering them. And when I asked him, he said, you know, a lot of people might say, well, you're doing, he said, no. He said, I'm really considering that team. So, I mean, that speaks volumes for that kid. And, I mean, if you watch one of the interviews I did, he brought a teammate with him, and that teammate is a defensive lineman, and he has nowhere near the recognition that Travis did. And Travis is just a team player. He kind of, I'm not going to say took some plays off, but at one point he had a restroom break, and it was during a vital part of the camp. And this kid, Tamari Thompson, he ended up winning the MVP at the defensive line. And who was the first one there to congratulate him? Travis. So that speaks volumes. I mean, he was talking about UNC, and he said it was the home school, and he's got a great relationship with Coach Brown, Coach Bateman, Coach, he mentioned Galloway. I mean, Carolina's throwing the whole staff at him because, I mean, you have to with the top 5. They're showing major love. Coach Cross, Coach Thigpen. He even mentioned that he narrowed it down to 13. So him and his coach Brown, Coach Darryl Brown, wouldn't be bombarded so much with phone calls.
Well, when you asked him, you know, what coach do you, most times a lot of these kids, well, what coach do you communicate with the most at UNC or whatever school you're talking about? They give you one name, maybe a second name. He went straight to Mac. He went on down the line, named, you know, half the staff basically. And okay, so Carolina certainly, he did tell you that whenever things open up and guys can start taking visits, and I guess he can, you know, take an official. He said Carolina will get one of them. 3 or 4 other schools you think UNC will be most in competition with to get Travis Shaw?
Hey, you know, he's a national recruit, and I think Carolina is going to be in that list when he narrows it down. I think they got a good shot at him. You know, they've been recruiting him a long time, but they got to keep performing on the field. You know, it helps with kids like Ray Vahasic. You know, he's doing really good on the thing, and they're played Miles Murphy. So freshmen are going to play. He's going to play, but I expect, you know, the national powers to be up there too. I mean, Clemson, he likes Clemson a lot, Ohio State, Georgia, just to name a few. So, you know, and he's not in no hurry. I mean, he's got a place no matter where he picks. Yeah. So he's going to take his time and see what happens with the pandemic, and so he can take visits.
I think watching Ray Vahasic's development is going to be really important for recruiting defensive line kids, because Vahasic came from way outside the radar. He picked Carolina over Kansas as a JC kid. So if he could turn into an all-ACC caliber kid, that's really going to say a lot for the development of defensive linemen there. Jaylen Walker, I know you talked to him a couple months ago at the VTO event you sponsored, Matthews, I guess in July. It's been a couple months since you've seen him in person, if I recall. How are things going with him, and what did you see from him that you liked, or maybe that's even better than last time you saw him?
Well, you pick out some of the 4 stars. You look at Jalon, and you're like, wow, he's a stud. You know, he's got a great build, and he's like 6'3", 6'4", and over 200 pounds. And he's a coach's son. His dad is the head coach at Catawba, and his dad played at Catawba. So, he's grown around football all his life. And Salisbury, they're coming off a great year where they went to the state final and they got beat by Buzzsaw down in Shelby. There's not many teams that beat Shelby, so there's no shame in losing to Shelby. But Jalon, he released his top 10, and Carolina's right there in the mix. And with them Tigers down the road in South Carolina, the Clemson Tigers, they're in there too. He mentioned about every kid, the first thing they say is Coach Brown.
Yeah.
He says Coach Brown, and I asked him about, watching the games, and I asked Travis that, and they both watched them because, that's one thing about being on TV at 12 o'clock. A lot of these kids can watch them and everything. So I asked him specifically about watching the linebackers and watching Chaz and Gimmel, two really good linebackers, and what he liked. And he loves the way Bateman uses his linebackers and basically just turns them loose, and he loves to hit people. And he was impressive. He was impressive at camp. He won the top linebacker at the event.
4-star kid in the class of 22. That's part of the state where Carolina, they're making some progress, but they gotta spring a few of these kids, don't you think?
Yeah, and like I said, he mentioned the usual, a lot of the SEC teams, and North Carolina's right there in it, and I think he's another kid that's has a spot open. He could commit to anywhere, so he's taking these 22 kids. They're taking in and taking their time because they can't go on visits, but soon as them visit, when it's able to visit, it's going to be busy at all these schools.
Yeah, and your head will be spinning trying to keep track of all of them. Albert Red is a 3-star linebacker from Glenn High School. He's a teammate of Rara's, a class of 22 kid as well. We've been tracking him for a while. Again, another kid who was at the VTO with you a couple months ago. His offer sheet has exploded in the last 5 or 6 weeks or so. So what's the latest with Albert Red?
Well, his first offer was UNC, and then it kind of, he got a few smaller offers, and then this past week he got one from Louisville and West Virginia. So I think he's benefiting from some of the exposure that he's getting. He's like Rara. Him and Rara, they go to all these camps, so he's getting some exposure, and these coaches are seeing him. They're seeing him in action, seeing articles on him, checking his highlight tapes, and it don't help playing with 2 4-stars in Javari Ritzy and Rara. I asked him about, with Rara and Javari, they're, quote, opting out, going to early enroll in UNC, that more pressure will fall on him in the spring for Glenn. And he's like, yeah, I expect it and I want it, because Glenn was poised to have a great season. And so now 2 of their defensive leaders or even team leaders are now gone. And so a lot of that responsibility is going to fall on Albert. I feel that Albert really likes UNC, and he's another one that talks about the staff and family and everything. And, it's kind of, I know Rara's in his ear all the time. Rara's in everybody's ear, but,
Yeah.
It's when you have a kid like that, a recruiter, I think Albert's the type of kid that is loyal, and, if he wants to be a Tar Heel, I believe he has a very good shot that he'll be a Tar Heel.
And this isn't to say the kids that don't go to a lot of these events that it hurts them, but the ones that go to all these events like Rara or like Albert Red, it has to help because coaches want guys that are totally self-motivated and big-time competitors. And if there's anything you could say about Alva Red, there are a lot of impressive things. One of them is obviously that the kid is a competitor. Eli Hall is a young man who was there Sunday but did not participate. We haven't talked a lot about him, and I don't know how many of our listeners or viewers or people on our site actually are that familiar with him. So kind of fill us in with who Eli Hall is and what you know about him.
He's a defensive tackle from Crest, Cleveland County, hotbed for football. He wanted to come, but with the concerns about COVID, and we understand that a lot of kids are still hesitant about the competition, but he agreed to come from Shelby, Bowling Springs, that area, and come down, and got a chance to meet him and interview him and find out a little bit more about him. He's a defensive tackle. He's got some good offers he's got a few SEC schools that have offered: Georgia, South Carolina, and Auburn, and East Carolina. Wake Forest have offered. It's kind of funny, State or UNC hasn't offered, but he was clear to tell me that UNC is in constant contact with him. Now, with North Carolina, a defensive tackle, Carolina has a lot of targets. So he may be in that top target list, but when you got a Travis Shaw who's a 5-star, you got Santana Hopper who's a 4-star,
Tyrone's cousin.
Curtis Neal, who is in Huff High School, another high 4-star, and then you got a lot of depth. So Carolina's showing, they're interested, and I think Eli's really interested because deep down I think he has a kind of a love for the Carolina Blue, because he kind of hinted at it, because he really wants a UNC offer.
Well, and if anybody watching this or listening to this loves Carolina Blue as well, don't forget that Tar Heel Illustrated, we have a 60-day free trial right now. You get access to all of our premium content, and we're all over it. The football Tar Heels, the basketball Tar Heels, recruiting, and of course, we go wherever the Tar Heels go. So go to TarHeelIllustrated.com. 60 days, check us out for free, and if you decide to stick around, you get a 1-year membership at half price, and on top of that, a free t-shirt at BreakingT.com. She's Deana King. I'm Andrew Jones. If you like this video, go ahead and click like, hit the notification bell so you get updates every time we upload a video, and we do that very, very often. Thank you for stopping by.